Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new show. We're calling it Ben Versus. I'm just your moderator here, Jace Lejeune. I'm not going to get in the way. Just moderating this lively debate. It's going to be our sports debate show here, hosted by really every single week by Ben Hall. So each and every single week, Ben, who's like an expert here for gridiron football, is really good on this history, his sports history, and we get a chance to debate some football history and just some opinions as well. And we get a chance to introduce Ben Hall to the gridiron football audience, as he's going to be against somebody each and every week. So Ben, tell me a little bit about yourself and why gridiron football should have time to listen to you and have you on this show today.
Well, my name is Benjamin Hall. I'm originally from the area of Baton Rouge. I coach high school football for about 10 years. But basically, I've been in sports my whole life. My dad played college, a little bit of college football, moved here to play actually football in college. And so we're going to you'll be able to get to know me and the sports background. My brother, was a professional athlete, was drafted in pro baseball. So sports has been a part of my life pretty much since I was born. And basically we're just going to have a little fun debating on what the funness of sports is.
So this is going to be your first debate, Ben, and for the first ever episode, we have one of our gridiron football beat writers here in Cabe. Cabe, introduce yourself to the gridiron football family and why they should be voting for you today.
My name is Cabe. I'm Cabe Bond. I'm a writer for gridiron football. I also write for the Reveille, as I am an LSU student, currently majoring in sports administration. Love sports, been a fan of it for my entire life, and y'all should side with me because I think I'm right.
We're going to see who is right, and that's where y'all chime in. So y'all actually get a chance to vote on which of these two guys have won the debate. So the fans, y'all get a chance to be a part of it, just like y'all are part of picking our player of the weeks and player of the year. And we'll see what Ben's overall record is as we do more and more of these shows. And hey, really the winner doesn't really win really necessarily anything but bragging rights between the two. But y'all get a chance to have y'all voice in it. So each week we'll have, most of the time, 5 topics per guest. But since it's the middle of the week, we're only going to have 3. So this is the first topic. Now, each individual, to show you how this works, is like a little bit of a game show type format, right? A debate type format. Each contestant gets 1 minute to argue their part on why their answer is right. And after that, they get a chance to debate a little bit. They each have a minute to really talk about the other person's debate and why they're wrong. And then finally, they get a minute to have their final argument. So you have an argument, counter argument, and then their final argument for why their person should win. So, y'all ready for the first topic?
Yep.
So the first topic we have on Ben Versus, first ever topic. And if y'all wanted to chime in, y'all can. I'm sure y'all want to chime in on your answer as well. But our first ever one is, who is the biggest NFL bust? So that is question number 1. We'll see what each side agrees with. They're going to disagree, but each side answers with, and we'll see what their answer is. But that is the first question. Ben, it's your show. You'll go first. You have a minute to defend your argument here, your answer, your player. So Ben, who is the biggest NFL bust of all time?
I have to say Jamarcus Russell, and he was our local guy from LSU and drafted by the Oakland Raiders in the first round, first overall pick. You just don't find a guy that had ability that good. He was a player that you can't teach things. Somebody that size, that ability at quarterback position, it was bar none of most we've seen before. A guy that could throw it, flat-footed as far as you need. And he did not pan out to what we saw in college. And I think to some LSU fans, they maybe didn't notice, but his ability, what he showed at LSU, was some of the best throws that you could ask for a college quarterback to make. So I still, to this day, will always say Jamarcus Russell will always be the biggest bust that I've ever seen.
All right, so you heard it. So Ben has Jamarcus Russell as the biggest NFL draft bust of all time. Now we'll get to say what Cabe's answer is. So I'm going to reset the clock. Cabe, who is the biggest NFL bust of all time?
So for me, the biggest NFL bust of all time is Ryan Leaf. We could start by just looking at the draft that he was in. You had Peyton Manning, who went before him. Ryan Leaf was the second overall pick. Behind him, you had Charles Woodson, Hall of Famer, Kyle Turley, an all-pro tackle, Takeo Spikes, you had Randy Moss, and Alan Fanenka. All of them were all in the first round. Those are all pros that were missed on in order to draft Ryan Leaf. And what he did with the Chargers was terrible. In his first season, he had 2 touchdowns to 15 interceptions, and he backed up that atrocious performance by going 11 touchdowns for 18 interceptions in his second season. Comparative to Jamarcus Russell, he has beaten him, or has less stats than him in everything except for passing yards per game and rushing attempts. He is by far the worst quarterback of all time, worst player of all time, biggest bust. And to be quite honest with you, the only good that he ever did was get the Chargers Drew Brees.
Well, that's it. Time is up. So you heard both their arguments. Ben says that Jamarcus Russell is the biggest NFL draft bust of all time. Cabe says it is Ryan Leaf. Now, why do you disagree that it's not Ryan Leaf, the biggest draft bust of all time?
Well, why would I disagree? Well, because there's been so many, and I think one thing that we forget with Ryan Leaf is that he might have had a lot of failure, but there's been players that we could even, I've said something earlier about a guy named Marcus Dupree. He was not picked up in the NFL, but he was as scary as a running back we've ever seen. He played at Oklahoma. So you've had players as good as anybody. Ryan Leaf, I think there's been others out there, but I still don't think it was Ryan Leaf.
Okay, Cabe, what about you? Why isn't Jamarcus Russell the biggest draft bust?
So the reason why I say Jamarcus Russell isn't the biggest draft bust is because Ryan Leaf was kind of Jamarcus Russell before Jamarcus Russell. Ryan Leaf was drafted in 1988, Jamarcus Russell in 2007, I believe. Ryan Leaf was who Jamarcus Russell we think is. Ryan Leaf was 6'5", 221 pounds. He was supposed to be a freak of nature. If you compare their stats, Ryan Leaf, 25 games. Jamarcus Russell, 31. Career AV, 1-6. Quarterback wins, 4-7. Completion percentage, 48% to 52. Passing yards, Jamarcus Russell has more. Passing yards per attempt, more. Passing touchdowns, 18 is Jamarcus Russell, 14 Ryan Leaf. Interceptions, 36 career interceptions by Ryan Leaf. In 3 years, Jamarcus Russell, 23. Jamarcus Russell has less rushing attempts and more rushing yards, more rushing touchdowns. Ryan Leaf was atrocious and was drafted at the 2nd overall pick. He was supposed to be a franchise guy and wasn't.
All right, so that is our counter argument. And then now finally is your final chance. You'll have about an extra minute, so you have 2 minutes to get everything that you need to say about Ryan Leaf and Jamarcus Russell. So, Ben, this is your final argument to defend why, even though either guy doesn't really want to be on that side of the debate, but you have 2 minutes to finally pursue our fans to see why Jamarcus Russell is the biggest NFL draft bust.
Well, I think if fans want to really think about what I'm saying, okay, I've loved football my whole life, so I used to be a football junkie, just like staying in the game. Think about who failed on what they did. So when an NFL team drafts somebody, who does it? It's the general manager, it's the owner, and it's the head coach. Well, if there's one owner and coach and team in football history that's been really one of the historical monumental teams to the NFL, who is that? The Oakland Raiders. Well, Al Davis is one of the reasons that we have the AFL NFL merge because he was a part of a group many years ago that formulated it into what we get to see in the National Football League, and that man's team and himself failed. Now people would say, okay, well, he was at an age where he was, well, that's fine. It's Al Davis. He's one of the pioneers of football. I mean, it's kind of common sense when you break it down. It's Al Davis. I don't need to say no more. If Al Davis fails, that's a pretty major thing to the NFL.
Yep. Yep. So with a minute to spare, I mean, I think Ben finally showed his final argument for Jamarcus Russell and why he is the biggest NFL draft bust of all time. But Cabe, you get 2 minutes to really persuade the fans on why it's Ryan Leaf that's actually the biggest NFL draft bust of all time.
So I've talked about his stats. I've talked about how he was equally thought of as this great prospect. I'm going to talk about just one final thing about why Ryan Leaf was so disappointing and just so terrible. In order for the Chargers to draft him, they had to make a trade. They had the 3rd overall pick and they traded to the 2nd overall pick. In order for them to do that, they traded with the Cardinals, where they traded their 3rd overall pick, who was Andre Wadsworth. He didn't really pan out in the NFL, but was running for Defensive Rookie of the Year. They traded a 2nd round pick, who was Corey Chavis, who one year had 8 interceptions in a Pro Bowl season with Minnesota, had like 7 career interceptions in 4 years with Arizona. A decent player, panned out really well in the NFL, played like 13 years. Then they also traded out Eric Metcalf, who was an all-pro player and Pro Bowler, and also Patrick Sapp, who never really played much in the NFL, but was still a player. I mean, you traded out all this capital, 2 all-pro players, and what did you get for it? Nothing. You got somebody who played 3 years and threw 36 interceptions. I mean, that's worse than an undrafted player. That's why I think that Ryan Leaf is the biggest bust in NFL history.
So you heard the debate. Ben Hall versus Cabe Bond, Jamarcus Russell versus Ryan Leaf. Who do you decide? Who is the biggest NFL bust of all time? You can actually vote at the link below. Who won the debate? Did Ben win the debate? Did Cabe win the debate? Is Jamarcus Russell the biggest NFL draft bust of all time, or is Ryan Leaf the biggest NFL draft bust of all time? Who wins the debate? Well, you can decide. Vote in the link below so you can decide who is the biggest NFL draft bust of all time.